Hello everyone, welcome back. In this session, I wanna going to cover the principle of object-oriented programming. So from the last session, we'll get to know that object-oriented programming refers to a programming methodology based on objects which contains both data as well as a behavior. So in case of object-oriented concepts, we will learn four major principles, that is abstraction, encapsulation, inheritance, and polymorphism. These are the four different features or the principles of object-oriented programming, which is also called as a pillars of object-oriented programming. These are also called as a pillars of object-oriented programming language. So let's discuss each and every pillars of object-oriented programming in detail. So let us start with the very first feature, that is abstraction. So this is the first major principles of object-oriented programming language, that is the abstraction. So abstraction is the process or it's a way of representation or it's an exposing the essential features of an entity without including more details or without including much more explanation, just by ignoring the irrelevant details. So by ignoring the irrelevant details, just by acquiring or just by exposing the essential features of an entity is refers to an abstraction. So as the name itself suggests, abstract. So the name itself suggests that it's an abstract. So abstracting the relevant functional details of an object which are very much needed to the user is nothing but an abstraction. So as the name itself suggests, abstract, which means abstracting only the relevant functional details of an object which are presented to the users. So in case of implementation, by hiding the implementation as well as a trivial component from the view of an users. So in case of abstraction, we're going to hide both the implementation details and we're going to hide the complex components from the perspective of users. So this is the most important pillar of object-oriented programming systems. The basic or the major goal of abstraction is to handle the complexities by hiding the irrelevant or by hiding unnecessary details from the user perspective. In other words, the user will have the information on what the object will does instead of how it will does. So this abstraction will gives the information of what actually the object will perform, and it doesn't say anything about how the internal functionality will be there. So it only gives the information on what the object does instead of how it actually does. So let's take a real world example or real world scenario in order to understand what do you mean by an abstractionist. So we all know how to drive a car. So we only know that just about how to start the car or how to turn or how to apply the brake and all. Just we know about just we know how to start the car, how to turn, or how to apply brake and all. We just know how to start a car. As a driver, we know how to drive a car. We only know about how to start. We can start a car by turning the key or pressing the start button, but we don't know how the engine is getting started. We don't know about how the internal functionality has taken place, and we don't know anything about the engines, and we don't know anything about which are the different components that a car might consist of. So all these things are hide from the user perspective. Just what the user as a driver, as a driving a car, we just know how to start a car, how to turn, how to take a turn, how to brake, how to applying the brake. So the car implementation and the complex logic of a car is completely hidden from the user. So this is the one of the real-time example of abstraction. So let us consider one more real-time example that whatever we are going to use in our day-to-day life. So this is an example of ATM machine. So in our day-to-day life, majority of us all are performing the operations on ATM machines. Like, right? Like we are going to withdraw some cash from the ATM by for withdrawal purpose, for withdrawal, or for balance inquiry, or for generating the pins, or for some other actions in order to retrieve the mini statements and so on. So for all these purpose or for all these perspective, we are going to use this ATM machine, but we don't know the internal details about the ATM, how the internal machine will provided the statements, or how the internal machine will give the exact amount what we are entering in the systems, or we don't know about how the ATM machine will respond with our bank account, and all these implementation details or all these complex logic will be hidden from the perspective of a user. We don't know any kind of internal operation that takes place inside an ATM machine. So in case of abstraction, we only get to know about the withdrawal, balance, pin generations, and mini statement. We don't know any internal functionality of an ATM. So this is the real-time example of abstraction. So next we have encapsulation. So this is the next second pillar of object-oriented programming. So encapsulation is the process of wrapping the data, or which is also called as a variables and code, which are acting on a different methods together as a single unit, which acts on a data together as a single unit. So the variables of a class will be hidden from other classes and can be accessed only through the methods of the current classes. So the variable of one class will be hidden from the variables of other classes. So one class cannot access the other variables easily. So they only accessed by using a methods. By using a methods only, one variable can easily access the other variables. So this encapsulation is also called as data hiding. Why we are going to call this as a data hiding? Instead enough, the other class will not be able to access the data through the private data member. So we call this encapsulation as a data hiding. So why we are gonna use encapsulation is to be in order to achieve encapsulation. So in order to achieve the encapsulation, we are going to use this encapsulation for two different things. So firstly, in order to declare the variables of a class as private. So by declaring the variable of a class private, we are going to achieve the encapsulation. Next is by providing the public setter and getter method in order to modify and view the variable value. So which means by providing the setter and getter method, by providing this setter as well as the getter method, we can take a class to read only and write only functionality. So by using the setter and getter, we're going to use this read only as well as a write only criteria. So by providing a public setter and getter method, we are going to use read only and write only functionality in case of encapsulation. So the power of encapsulated code is that everyone knows how to access it, thus can use it regardless of implementation details and without fear of unexpected side effects. So what it actually says it, each and everyone will know about how to use the particular encapsulated code or how to use a particular system which is having an encapsulation. They may also know the use of the implementation uses of this, but they don't know anything about the implementation details and they don't have a fear of the side effect that might be appears from the encapsulated code. What they just want is they want to get the benefits of an encapsulated data. So this encapsulation is also called as a basis of a classes, as we learn that the encapsulation is achieved in Java language by the class concepts. So in the beginning of the object oriented programming started classes, I'm going to have explained about the classes, right? So it's a combination of state and behavior in a single container. So encapsulation is called as a basis of classes since it's a combinations of state and behaviors which will be placed in a single container. So in case of encapsulation, using a class keyword, we can be achieved the encapsulation by two different things. One is a state and another one is a behavior. So the state in case of encapsulation represents the declaration of variables. So the state represents the declaration of variables, whereas the behavior represents the operation that are performed by the different variables. So the operations, and in order to declare the variables and in order to represent the operation, we are gonna use state and behaviors in case of encapsulation by using a keyword class. So by using a keyword class, we are gonna use the state and behavior in order to represent the declaration as well as the operations of particular variable in a encapsulation process. So this is an encapsulation process, or this is a simple representation of encapsulation. Here we have a class keyword. So encapsulation is a process. In order to achieve encapsulation, we are gonna use a class keyword which contains both methods as well as a variables, or in other words, we are also called as a which contains states as well as a behavior. So in order to achieve encapsulation, we are gonna use class keyword in order to represent the both state as well as the behaviors. So in case of encapsulation, each method or each variable in a class may be marked as a private as well as a public. So each and every method will be marked as a private as well as a public. So here, what actually a private method and what actually a public method is. In case of a private method, so this private method, as the name itself suggested, it's a private, so which cannot be accessed in other classes. So this private method cannot be accessed by other method. It can be only accessed by the relevant method or the relevant objects. So as the name itself suggests, private method, these are the method which cannot be accessed in other classes except the classes in which they are declared. So it will only used for the classes that it will actually declare. So only for the classes which the public method are declared, for such classes only we are going to use this private method. But we can't access this private method for any other classes. So it is simply used for the classes in which they are declared. So this public methods, as the name itself suggests, it's a public. So these are the methods which can be accessed in any of the classes. It can be accessed in any of the classes. So this is shown in the figure. So if there is an outside code, only the public variables or only the public methods will be accessed by the outside code. But the private method cannot give an access for an outside class. This outside code cannot give an access for the private method. So the public interface of a class represents everything that external of the user need to know. It will provide all the details to all the users. The public interface will provide all the details to all the users. They need to know or they may to know. So it will provide the information to all the end users. Whereas in case of a private method, the data can only be accessed by the member of a class. Other than the member, nobody can access this private methods or a private data. So any other code that is not a member of class cannot access a method or variable. So other than a member of a particular class, none of the code or none of the member of a class cannot access the private method or variables. So this is a real-time example of encapsulation. So whenever we feel sad or whenever feel not a good, facing some health issues, we may visit hospitals. So they in hospitals, the doctor will give a prescription based on situation, based on the disease that we are going to that we are facing. So based on a prescription, we are going for medicals. So in medicals, we got some medicines. So they'll give some capsules, right? So we'll take the capsules or a medicines under the guidance of a doctor. But we don't know how exactly this medicine will work inside a body, or how what are the different things which contain inside this capsule. So each and every capsule will contain inside this capsule. It will contain some mixture of many medicines. So every capsule will contain some mixture of some medicines, but we don't know how much of mixture it is, what exactly it affects on our body, how the disease will get cured and all. So all the inside activities, all the informations are hidden from the user perspective. We just see this as a capsule, but we don't know what exactly there in inside a capsule, how it actually work inside our body. So this is an example of encapsulation process. So here the capsule is wrapped with different types of a medicine. So each and every capsule, all the medicines are encapsulated inside a single capsule. So as we are discussed encapsulation and abstraction, so both are hiding, right? So when I say about an abstraction, also I have said that it is about an hiding the irrelevant details. When I say about an encapsulation, I also say it is an hiding of information. So what is the difference between an encapsulation and abstraction, or both are one and the same? And what do you mean that encapsulation is just an information hiding. So information hiding is nothing but encapsulation, whereas abstraction is implementation hiding the implementation details, or hiding the complexities. Implementation hiding. So encapsulation is a information hiding process, whereas an abstraction is a implementation hiding process. So this is about an abstraction as well as a encapsulation process. So we're gonna discuss with few more pillars or few more features. So the next one is polymorphism, which is the third pillar of a object-oriented programming. It is also called as a third principle or a third pillar of object-oriented programming, which is polymorphism. So polymorphism is the process. Polymorphism is the process of representing the one form in multiple ways. So representing a one thing in a multiple ways is called as a polymorphism. Here polymorphism is derived from a two Greek word. One is a poly and another one is a morph. So one is a poly and another one is a morph, where the word poly means many and morph means form. So as the name itself suggests, it is many forms. Polymorphism means many forms. So the polymorphism is derived from two Greek words. One is a poly and another one is a morph. So if the word poly means many and the morph means form, together the polymorphism means many forms. So it's a polymorphism let us to perform a single action in different ways. So polymorphism will allow us to perform a single action in many different ways. Also, it allows us to define one interface and can have a multiple implementation. So in order to define a one interface, we can use multiple implementation techniques. So by using a polymorphism, it can create a functions or reference variables which behave differently in different programming context, or depending upon the situation, they will going to create the function and it will behave differently based on a different perspectives. So the next thing is the features that allow on one interface to be used for a general class of action. So whatever the features that we are going to use on one interface, which will be used for a general class of actions, in order to perform different action, we are gonna use polymorphism process. So the concepts of polymorphism is expressed as one interface, multiple methods. So one, as I said, one interface will be designed by using a multiple method. So in order to implement a one interface, we're gonna use multiple different numbers of methods, or we are gonna use multiple implementation techniques, or we are gonna use multiple methods in order to develop a single interface. So this helps, this polymorphism will helps to reduce the complexities by allowing the same interface to be used to specify a general class of action. So in order to perform n different numbers of action, we are gonna use the same interface. So as the polymorphism will express as a one interface, multiple methods, we're gonna use same interface to specify a general class of action. So here is the real-time scenario of how a polymorphism will works. Suppose think this fellow has a youth. Suppose this fellow think this fellow has a youth. So how this fellow will considered as a polymorphic in nature means, suppose think if you are in a shopping mall, or if you are in some mall, you are behaving like a customer. The fellow is behaving like a, or treating like a customer. In the meanwhile, when you are traveling in a bus, you are considered as a passenger for that particular bus. But whereas when you are in a school, your behavior is like a student. You are representing a student character. So but when you are in a home, you are the son or a daughter of your parents. So you behave in a multiple ways. So here one person is presented in different behavior. So this fellow is representing as a customer, or this fellow is also representing as a passenger. This fellow will also represent as a student as well as a son or daughter for that parent. So one fellow representing in multiple form is a real world example of a polymorphism. So next we have inheritance. So the name itself suggests inheriting. As the name itself suggests, inherit. It's the process of obtaining or acquiring the data members and methods from one class to another class is known as a inheritance. So obtaining the properties or obtaining the data members and the methods from one class to other class is known as a inheritance. So it is one of the most fundamental feature of object-oriented programming and the pillar of an object-oriented programming. The class which is give a data members and method is also called as a base class, or it is also called as a super class, or it is also called as a parent class. So the class which is the major one is called as a base class, super class, or a parent class. The class which give a data members or the method, the class which gives the properties. So the class which will give the properties is known as a base class or super class or a parent class. So there are two different classes in case of an inheritance. One is a base class and another one is a derived class. So the class which is taking the data members and the methods, or in other words, the class which is acquiring or which is taking the properties, acquiring the properties. So the class which is acquiring the properties is known as a subclass, derived class, or in other words, it's also called as a child class. So the class which will giving the properties, which will providing the properties is a parents class. So the class which is acquiring the properties is a child class. So there are two different classes. One is a parent class and another one is a child class. So the data members and the methods of a class are known as a features, or it is also known as a properties. So the data members and the methods which are acquired or derived from the parent class and the child class is also known as a features. In other words, it is also called as a properties. The concept of inheritance is also known as a reusability or extendable classes or subclassing, or in other words, it's also called as a derivation. Why we are gonna call this as a reusability? In a sense, one aspects will be gonna derived or gonna derived from n different numbers of subclasses. So it will help to reuse the same concepts from the one class to the multiple classes, or it is also called as an extendable classes, since one class will extend to the multiple different classes, and it also eventually leads to a different subclasses, which is called as a derived classes. So it is called as a relationship between a superclass and its subclass. So the inheritance is called as a is a relationship, or is a relationship between a superclass and a subclass, or it is also called as a it's a relation. This inheritance is a relationship between a parent and child. So how it eventually works in a sense, let's consider this as an example. So considered an example. So here the animal is a superclass. So I consider this animal as a superclass, which is also called as a parent class, or it is also called as a superclass, parent class, and also a superclass. So here the relationship between a superclass and a subclass, or the relationship between a parent class and a child class is a relationship. How it eventually takes place is, here the animals is divided into 4 different categories. So the animal class is derived into or extends with 4 different subclasses, which is called as an amphibian, reptiles, mammals, and a bird. How it gonna creates a he/her relationship means, here animal is a amphibian. So animal is a amphibian. So the animal is also her amphibian. So the next criteria is the animal is also a reptiles. So animal is come under a group of animals, right? So reptiles is come under a group of animals. So reptiles is a animal. So when I say it's a mammal, animal is also belongs to a mammals is belongs to a category called animal. So it is a mammal is a animal. So for similarly for birds, birds is also a animal category. So birds is also come under a category called animal. So it exhibits is a relationship between a parent class as well as a child class. So this example will create a relationship between a parent class as well as a child class. So what actually a superclass or a parent class do mean is the class whose features are inherited, so whose properties are inherited, is known as a superclass, or it is also called as a base class, or it is also called as a parent class. Whereas the subclass is a class which inherits the properties from other classes is known as a subclass, which acquiring the properties from other classes known as a subclass. So it is also called as a derived class, extended class, or in other words, it is also called as a child class. So the subclass can add its own fields and methods in addition to the superclass fields and methods. So addition to the features or addition to the properties of a superclass, the subclass will also add its own features or own methods. So inheritance is the process by which one object acquires the properties of another object. So as the name suggests, inheritance, inheriting the properties of one object from another object. So in programming, inheritance means to use the existing classes in order to define a new classes, which will allow for reusability of code, which will allow to use the code in a reusable format. So there are multiple types of inheritance. Basically, there are 5 different types of inheritance. That is a single inheritance, multiple inheritance, hierarchical, multi-level, and hybrid inheritance. Let's discuss each and everything. So single inheritance, as the name itself suggests, single, which means that here we have a single parent class and a single child class, or in other words it is also called as a we're gonna have a one parent class and one child class, or in other words it's also called as we have a one base class and one derived classes, or in other words we're also called as, in case of a single inheritance, we will have a one superclass and one subclass. So in a single inheritance we're gonna use a parent class and a child class. A subclass is derived from a single superclass, whereas child class is derived from a single parent class. So the parent class has only one child class. So in case of a single inheritance, each and every parent class has only one child class. So here is an example. So here employee is a base class, whereas a manager is a subclass, or it's also called as a derived class. So this employee is a base class, whereas this manager is a derived class, or it is also called as a child class. So here we say that a manager is a employee. So manager is a employee. So manager is an employee, is working under some organization. So a manager inheriting the attributes of a particular employee. So deriving the manager from an employee in this way means that the manager can be used, whereas an employee is acceptable. So whenever an employee is acceptable, its role is a manager. So we have a different numbers of employees working with different criteria. So like an employee might be an accountant. So the employee might be an accountant, or the employee might be an security, or the employee might be an HR of particular organization, or the employee might be working under some administration work. So here in this example, employee is a manager. So among the group of employee, here I'm going to use a single inheritance in order to represent the role of a manager. So I'm going to represent employee as a manager. So this is an example of single inheritance. So next we have a multiple inheritance. So number of classes as inherited in a single class. A parent class will have a n different number of child class, which means two or more classes are known as a base class and one is a derived class. So as I explained earlier, here I have a single parent class which is animal, which will derive the few classes, few subclasses like amphibian, reptiles, mammals and birds, all come under the class called animals. So this is a best example of multiple inheritance. So next we have a multi-level inheritance. So the subclass is derived from a superclass, which in turn derived from another class. So here, this vehicle is a base class for car, whereas car is a base class for Audi. So the car will come under the category called vehicle, whereas the Audi will the category of, or one of the type of a car. So a subclass is derived from a superclass, which in turn derived from another class. Here the car is derived from a vehicle, whereas Audi is derived from a car. So it is like it's a relationship between a grandfather, father and a child. So this multi-level inheritance is something like a relationship between, it's like a relationship between grandfather, father and child. So it's a relationship between a grandparents to a child. How the relationship will takes place between a grandfather, father and child. So father will acquire the properties from a grandfather or acquire some knowledge from the grandfather, whereas the child will acquire some properties from a further. So this is an example of multi-level inheritance. So next we have an hybrid inheritance. So hybrid inheritance is a combination of both multi-level as well as a multiple inheritance. So hybrid inheritance is a combination of multiple as well as a multi-level inheritance. So here in this example, the student result will depends on the student result will entirely depend on the academics as well as a co-curriculum, that is a sports or extracurricular activities. So the result of a particular student will depend on the its academic activities as well as a co-curriculum activity. So this is the best example of hybrid inheritance, which is a combination of both multi-level inheritance and multiple inheritance. So next we have a hierarchical inheritance. So as the name itself suggests, it will form an hierarchy or it will form a tree-like structure. So it will form an hierarchical structure or it will form a tree-like structure. So in case of hierarchical inheritance, a class has a number of subclasses, each of which may have a subsequent subclasses. So a superclass or a parent class will have a n different number of classes, or it will have n different number of child classes. So each of the child class will have a subsequent subclasses. So continuing for number of levels, it will form a tree structure. So this subsequent subclasses will not be of any countable one. It will rise to n different numbers of levels. So whenever it rise to a different levels, it will form a tree-like structure. So the hierarchical inheritance will form a tree-like structure. So here is an example of hierarchical inheritance. Here the vehicle is a parent class which will derive to two different classes. One is a automobile vehicles, which is motor based on a motors, and another one is a pulled vehicles, which is based on a wheel. In case of an automobile vehicles can derive the two different subclasses, which is a car as well as a bus, whereas a pulled vehicle is again subdivided into two different things. One is a cart and another one is a rickshaw. So these two are the subclasses from this parent class, whereas these two are from automobiles and these two from pulled vehicles. So now if I again go on subsequently divided this as a, if I say the car is a Hardy, or if I say the car is a Swift, so if I specify the bus as a KSRTC, or if I specify the bus as a air conditioner or air conditioning bus, and again this cart is divided into some more, and if this rickshaw is divided into some more, it will subsequently form a tree-like structure. So the hierarchical inheritance on developing the n different numbers, like n different number of levels, it will form a tree-like structures. So this is the overview, or this is the complete overview of different types of inheritance, where in case of a single inheritance, there is a presence of single superclass and a single subclass, which is also called as a single parent class and a single child. Whereas in case of hierarchy, we'll have a different subclasses, and which eventually divided it some more sequence of subclasses by a single parent class. Whereas in case of a multi-level, one superclass, one parent class will derive the subclass, which in turn derive one more subclass. So in case of a hybrid, it is a combination of both multiple as well as a multi-level inheritance. Whereas in case of a multiple inheritance, by using a two parent class, we're gonna derive a single subclass. So this is all about a four major principles or four major pillars of object-oriented programming. Thank you.